Okay. Next on the agenda is a presentation on the Old Skunky engineering report. Sharon Dotz is here from Gilmore and Associates. Gilmore and Associates has been working on, or has just completed, the engineering study over the past 2 years, which looked at Old Skunky. There were some public meetings involved with that. There was a public meeting this spring in which the second draft was presented primarily to property owners along Old Skunky, and then there were comments received from that. And we have
Old Skunky report, and we're pleased that Sharon could come and give us a brief overview of the findings of that study and the recommendations that it generated.
Julia, before we start, if I may.
Sure.
2 meetings ago, we discussed the Old Skunky project, and I believe among council, we had agreed that this presentation would occur at the September council meeting. Number one, council, that was the direction council had given to you. I don't understand why it's on tonight's council meeting. Number two, John Burke is absent from tonight's meeting on vacation. Number three, I don't believe we've given the residents of Newtown Borough the opportunity to know that this was on the agenda this evening, because it was just put on last Thursday. And I think it would be inappropriate for us to make this presentation tonight. This has been a major project in the borough for over 2 years now. We've spent $30-some thousand on this project, and there aren't too many people in the audience this evening. And I would just strongly recommend that this be postponed. Not that I want to drag the person back from Gilmore in September. I'd strongly recommend that we do this at the September council meeting.
Duly noted, Bob. However, the purpose of this presentation is not a lengthy discussion. We will certainly need to have further discussion based on the findings of this report in the future, where we discuss the implications and how council needs to move forward. And looking ahead to the fall schedule, this meeting appeared to have a fairly light agenda and would be appropriate to complete this project. We've just received it. Let's get it done. Let's find out what her major recommendations are, and certainly schedule future discussions regarding how the borough wishes to respond. But that's not the purpose of tonight's meeting. So I appreciate that Sharon was able to come on fairly short notice herself, and certainly this presentation is going to be part of the video of this meeting, and will be available for anyone who wishes to see it who's not available currently. So Sharon, please. And there's a presentation overhead. The council wants to scoot around to see.
Well, to summarize, and I know I presented a draft to you earlier this year, we did go back after our draft presentation. We solicited additional we made another round with the surveys to try and get more response back from them on that. And as it turns out, we did get more response. We ended up getting about 2/3 of the surveys back, which is a pretty good turnout for that type of effort. In general, background, once again, we analyzed the Old Skunky, determining its watershed based on available data from federal, state, and local authorities. This may be a little difficult to see, but you have about 2/3 of the borough is actually being drained into Old Skunky. It's a significant area for such a small stream, small urbanized stream. In addition to that, we also used an aerial photograph to generally characterize what the land use was. Not that it's any surprise, it's well developed. But we actually made the differentiation between the impervious cover, like buildings and pavement, versus lawns. We supplemented that in this area with Newtown Walk information, in this area with the Newtown Station information, pulling that from the land development plans that were submitted so that we could make sure we had a more accurate representation. When we got all the surveys back, and we were using all this information to compile our model, there was a very large variety of opinions on Old Skunky. A lot of people thought it was no problem, and it's a stream, and you should treat it like a stream. And others pointed out the significant amounts of flooding at Penn and Chancellor, the erosion in several areas, and they also noted that the recent basin that was installed at Newtown Station seemed to help some of those issues. In general, I did notice a trend in those surveys in that the people in the lower part of the watershed, where some of the flooding had been addressed by the improvements to State Street, were primarily the ones who thought that there wasn't so much of a problem with Old Skunky. The ones further up in the watershed are the ones that see the flooding at Penn and Chancellor, and further north up near Newtown Station and Norwood Road. Those are the ones who noticed more of a problem and something has to be done. I think that alludes to the fact that doing things to help, like what was done at State Street when the culvert was cleaned out and replaced, has a noticeable effect. In general, the model showed that the areas above Lincoln have a capacity for a 5-year storm event. Generally, a 2-year storm event is considered bank full, so the fact that it handles a 5-year storm is generally considered acceptable. I wouldn't say it's good, but it's acceptable. On the other hand, below Lincoln, it doesn't handle the 2-year storm, mainly because of a couple of channels that are very restrictive. The largest problem that the model pointed out is, of course, excessive velocities along the stream channel, which is why you have lots of erosion and loss of soil. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. After reviewing the model, we did come up with a couple of recommendations. The first one, it would be a diversion. If we could divert the area highlighted in green, it would basically split the watershed in half. Now this is Lincoln here. So you're basically breaking it at Lincoln, taking the part that seems to be functioning well and diverting it. The options for diverting it would all need greater study, full design. We were working with a rough idea, and it is possible to divert this over to, for example, the SEPTA right-of-way that's been closed. There are a couple of different ways that that could be gone about, but it would require additional study and additional design work. Another way to help, or another of our recommendations that would help this, would be to create additional detention. As we noticed with Newtown Station, the detention helped significantly. If we could do more or similar projects like that, we could show further reductions to the flow in Old Skunky itself. One way would be to do additional work at Newtown Station Basin. Right now, it was just put in as an extension of the existing culvert. If some detention were put in for the lower storms, it would provide better flow capacity downstream of that during the low-end storms. Another possibility would be to put something in this vacant lot. That property is owned by SEPTA, but it's currently vacant. I believe it's just stoned and used for parking at this point. That would, of course, require obtaining right-of-way design and permitting for that. Another possibility would be Linton Park, right across the street from that SEPTA lot. There is room behind the recently installed improvements that you could do an underground detention or flood storage area, divert water into it to take off some of the flooding issues, and then put it back into the stream further down. Finally, the other suggestion we have to help the flooding issues is reduction of the storm flows. The majority of Newtown was developed before stormwater management ordinances were in place. Most of the houses and commercial areas don't have any stormwater management to speak of. So simple installation of rain barrels or rain gardens, per your presentation this coming Saturday, would be extremely helpful. Taking 3,000 to 5,000 cubic feet of water out just by putting one house on rain barrels or a rain garden. These are simple things that can be done by the individual homeowner.